was heard on the face of this earth. And stop this babbling about shillings and pence. We are prepared to pay in gold." The phoenix took the 4 pieces of gold from David and carelessly tossed them into the air. The banshee's eyes flew wide open, and she twirled herself around like a top. "Ach, the sweet music of its tinkling!" she exclaimed. "The lovely sheen of light upon it! There's a sight for eyes used to naught but silver. Ah, but dearies, I've no whale worth 4 pieces of gold. I'll have to make one up special." She hobbled rapidly around the chamber until she found a box as large as a bird cage and an ear trumpet. She opened the box, shook it to make sure it was empty, and put in 2 heads of cabbage. "Such monstrous appetites these whales do have," she explained. She fastened the lid carefully with a catch lock and inserted the ear trumpet in a hole in one side of the box. Then she disappeared through a soundproof door, which they had not seen before on account of the smoke. 15 minutes later the banshee came out with the box, plugging up the hole in its side with a bit of wax. She was pale and trembling, and beads of sweat covered her face. She smiled weakly at them, seized an earthenware jug, and drained it in one gulp. The color began to return to her face. "Whoosht!" she gasped, wiping her brow with the sleeve of her Mother Hubbard. "Ah, dearies, that was an effort of me life. 'Tis a whale to make one burst with pride, though I do say so meself. 13 minutes long by the clock, with a range of 10 octaves. 'Twould frighten the old Nick himself." "Splendid," said the phoenix. "The fact is, I sometimes suspect that that is precisely with whom we are dealing at home." The light suddenly dawned on David. "Phoenix," he cried, "I bet we're going to give the whale to the scientist." "Precisely, my boy," the phoenix beamed. "Oh, golly, golly, golly!" David sang as he danced around. "And I'll guarantee it, dearies," the banshee cackled. 100% satisfaction or your money back." "Defeat and confusion to the enemy," the phoenix shouted, giving the special squawk which was its battle cry. The banshee received her gold. The phoenix told David for goodness sake not to drop the box or let the lid pop open, or they would regret it to their dying day. David, hearing the rustle of the whale as it ravenously attacked the cabbages inside the box, assured the phoenix that he would be careful. The banshee said, "Ah, phoenix, do sell the laddie to me," but her tone was more teasing than serious, and they all laughed. Goodbyes were said all around, and David and the phoenix left. The last thing they heard as they felt their way up the dark passage was the happy cackling of the banshee and the clang of the cash register. They got back to the hotel before dawn, and very carefully crept down the fire escape into the scientist's room. They put the box on the bedside table, stuck out their tongues at the sleeping scientist, and crept out again. Then they went home, the phoenix to the ledge and David to bed, where he fell asleep instantly. The whale was wildly successful. The scientist released it from its box at 7 o'clock in the morning. People living in the hotel thought the world had come to its end. The rest of the town wondered if it was a riot or an earthquake, or both, with 3 steam calliopes thrown in for good measure. David, who lived 12 blocks from the hotel, stirred in his sleep and dreamed he was riding a fire engine. Even the phoenix claimed later that a kind of moan was borne on the breeze all the way up to the ledge. The hotel burst into activity like a kicked ant-hill. People poured down the fire escapes, shot out through the doors, lowered themselves into the street with ropes of knotted blankets. Others barricaded themselves in their rooms by piling furniture against the doors and windows. One guest found his way to the cellar and hid in an ash can for 2 days. The manager crawled into the office safe and locked the door, without even bothering to remember that he was the only one who knew the combination. The telephone exchange was jammed as calls flooded in to mobilize the Boy Scouts, the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, the National Guard, and the Volunteer Flood Control Association. When the whale finally died out, which was not until 7:30, because it had devoured both cabbages during the night and had grown to more than twice its original size, the police entered the hotel in force, armed to the eyebrows. They found nothing. At the end of a 3-hour search, the chief handed in his resignation. As for the scientist, he disappeared completely. A farmer living 3 miles out of town said he saw a man, dressed in a nightshirt and a head bandage, running down the valley road. The farmer guessed the man's speed to be 35 miles an hour, but, he added, there was such a cloud of dust being raised that he could not see very well. It might have been 50 miles an hour, he said. No one doubted him. End of chapter 8.